Okay, so without further ado, Mrs. Kenneth Meshoe and Mr. Kate Montgomery.
Okay. Let me
Montgomery.
yes,
sir.
Let me start the recording here.
There it is. Yeah,
Hello, sir.
Hello, how you doing, Kenneth? Good to meet
you.
you.
Very well, thank you, sir.
Yeah, this is the Hawk, Craig Montgomery. I'm glad to meet you, and I appreciate you coming on. Everybody's been wanting to hear from you, so I'll just introduce you. This is Kenneth Meshoe. How do you say your name? Meshoe. Meshoe?
Kenneth Meshoe.
Meshoe. Sorry, I apologize.
You got no problem.
Okay. He is the president of the African Christian Democratic Party, and all I'm gonna do is go over your manifest, what you guys stand for, how long you've been in this. I see 25 years. Great stuff, and hopefully we'll put together a better mess than we have right now, right?
Yes, sir. What's the time, if I may ask?
It is 12 o'clock in the afternoon in the United States.
Okay. Lovely. Let's go for it.
Okay, let's go for it. So, Kenneth, the African Democratic Party, African Christian Democratic Party, I was going through your manifest, and I'd like to just go over a couple of things on. You were in your manifest. You talk about creating jobs for everybody. Can you just elaborate on that? In the sense of, because right now the unemployment rate in South Africa is horrendous, and it's
correct,
and it's basically setting off the crime wave that you have there.
Firstly, thank you very much for the opportunity to discuss with you and to meet our friends in the US over the internet. And the 7 points that we have in our manifesto, here we call it manifesto.
Oh, manifesto, yes.
Now, those yes, they are not in the challenge of crime and how it will finally, if it is resolved, help us to be able to have more jobs. Investors, both local and international, would prefer to live in a country and invest in a country where they are safe, number one.
Number one.
And where their families are also safe and their assets are safe. You know, in the past, there has been investors who came to our country, South Africa, who looked for opportunities to invest. And some of them were mugged.
Yes, I've seen that.
They felt, they were mugged. And they said, if I am mugged in the country where I want to put money, I cannot stay here. I cannot put my money.
That's true.
And then they would leave. So, firstly, crime has to be eradicated. Our current government is very soft on criminals. They are very soft. And some of us believe that the reason they are soft is because they have criminals among them.
That's
so they
true.
cannot be tough on the others when they know that they are guilty of the same.
Exactly.
So we are taking
at the top.
Right. So we are taking a very tough stance on dealing with criminality. We use the word punishment that is not used locally. We believe if criminals are not punished and are not taught that crime does not pay, they will continue with their criminality.
Yeah, if the law does not prevail, you have no law.
Correct. Law and order is breaking in our country.
Yes.
We want to restore a culture of law and order.
Yes.
Many people are a law unto themselves, and we want to change them. We want criminals and crime syndicates who think of invading a place not to think of South Africa, because they should know that in South Africa they are going to get tough and hard punishment.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah. So it's the first thing. That's the first thing that we believe we have to do, and to make sure that investments come in their jobs. And secondly, many investors and potential investors have complained about policy uncertainty in our country, because our government changes like chameleons many times. When it suits them, they say one thing. When it doesn't suit them, they say a different thing.
Yes, yes.
But with us, policy certainty is a guarantee. And something that can be said about us without any contradiction is that we have been consistent over the years. Consistency is one of our hallmarks. So people know exactly where we stand on issues. So there will be policy certainty, which the investors are looking for. And thirdly, obviously, when you have dealt with crime, you have made the atmosphere conducive for job creation, for investments.
Yeah.
You have made it conducive. And that is what we want to do, so that all investors all over the world will know that South Africa is an investor-friendly country.
Yeah.
That I will say my life will be safe, my assets will be safe. If there are protests, my business is not going to be attacked, as it's happening very commonly in our country.
Yes.
So businesses being broken into. We will not tolerate that.
Yes.
So once you have all that, now we are talking about going into schools, ensuring that students are trained in line with the needs of business. Okay? Students are skilled. And we want to also create a mindset among students that when you leave, when you graduate, we do not want you to go and look for a job. We want you to go and start your job. That should be in their mindset.
Yes.
Rather than stay unemployed and say, there's no job, there's no job, there's no job. We want to ensure that they are properly skilled and qualified so that they can be entrepreneurial skills are inculcated so that they can have a mindset, I'm going to start my business. So many of the people today who are unemployed, if they knew how to start a business, they will be doing that. And when they start a business, obviously we'll have a good relationship with this big business. We'll have a good relationship with business people. And we'll say to them, we have these people who are skilled in this area, but they only have theory. We want to ask you to partner with them, mentor them.
Like trade schools.
That's correct.
Yes.
Okay, mentor them so that they can be able to.
I think it's the same here in the United States. We have a massive lack of tradesmen.
Yes,
Africa has the same. You have a very minimal land trade schools. Yeah, that's a great idea.
We used to have trade schools in the past, but with the dawn of democracy, unfortunately, they were shut down, which is one of the foolish mistakes that were made by this present government. So we are going to reopen trade schools so that our people can be better skilled and qualified.
Yeah, and we could even promote that in the United States to have people come to Africa and train, start educating to build the country up.
Yes,
that's easy. That can be easily done.
And one other important thing, talking about people coming to train, our friends will be people who build families and economies. If you look at the friends of our ruling party, the ANC, Hamas, what can Hamas do? Okay?
Hamas, ISIS, Iran,
those are the friends. Yeah? Now, we are going to have a very strong relationship with America because we believe we have people there that are well skilled and that are willing to help. And also, I must mention that we will have a very strong relationship with Israel.
Very good. Very good.
Very good relationship with Israel because the innovation that has come out of Israel is amazing.
It is, yes.
And their water technology would solve the South African water crisis.
Yes, yes.
But we have people there whose minds are maybe veiled, darkened. They cannot appreciate people who can add value to our nation. So we believe with friends like America and Israel, and also skilling our own people with plenty of trade schools, trade technical colleges. The issue that is challenging us of joblessness and poverty are going to be dealt with.
Yes, I agree. That's great ideas. Absolutely great ideas. I mean, I've mentioned this before. To keep a stable environment on that coastline is to ask the United States to put a military base, especially a naval base in the Cape, which will stabilize that region, especially the sea routes. It's just a thought.
Well, it's a great thought. It's a great thought.
Because
it's
it will also boost the economy too.
Correct. Correct. I agree with you.
Yeah.
I agree with you.
So now that you know the issue with this land reform is a serious issue right now, and most of the people are asking one thing: how do you deal with this when 75% of the land is owned by the government itself? They're doing nothing with it. Of the co-op farming that they did do, not co-op farming, of the farms that they did give to people, the farms collapsed overnight, landed up being just abandoned and destroyed. If the farming situation gets any worse, South Africa will be facing a humanitarian crisis of epic proportions because you'll have no food. And food, and I'm not talking about black people or white people or whatever, I'm just talking about food itself, is your natural resources. And if you take that away from the people, you're actually murdering your own people. You're actually committing them to die.
Yes, sir.
Slowly, but
Oh,
you're
you're
going to
right.
kill them.
Well, the ACDP, which is abbreviation of African Christian Democratic Party, the ACDP supports the land reform program as it is stated in our constitution. Our constitution in section 25 speak about when necessary expropriation of land should take place. But the key is with compensation.
Okay.
Where we disagree with government is where they plan to take land from people just because maybe they don't like them. Because when you have people who are corrupt, who are leading you, even though they may not necessarily want to use that land because they don't like you, they will have the authority to do it. They will have the authority to take from people. Now, it is one of the reasons why investors have also been weary of coming to South Africa, because they are not sure. I start my business on this property. Then government comes around and they say they need that property when I've invested. You see, so that also is a hindrance. But our position and the ACDP says every land that is expropriated must be with compensation. It is not fair that people who have invested on any land are told government is going to take this land for whatever reason. So if they want, they must pay for it.
And I find something very, very strange that most of the population don't realize that most of the properties that are owned by black people in South Africa do not have titles.
That's correct.
And that needs to
That's
change.
correct. It is like they were just planning to grab that land because people don't have title deeds. We talk about giving people title deeds. That's even in our manifesto, that anybody who has land, those who are having land already, that land, they must all be given title deeds so that no government can take that land for whatever reason. All right, because title deed give you the assurance and the guarantee that it belongs to you and nobody
you and your family. And this land reform thing, I read it, and if it gets passed, what happens is nobody in the country will own any title. That means any corrupt politician could come to your house and just take your property.
Correct. You know the ANC and EFF, they are partners.
Oh, yes.
Because the EFF is a child of the ANC.
Yes.
And EFF in their manifesto is saying that all land must belong to the state. All land, business land, personal family land, even church land,
yes,
must belong to the state.
Yes.
And then they say they would give whoever wants to use land a license for 25 years. Now you tell me, what can you do in 25 years?
And nobody will invest in your country. Nobody. Not one person will invest. And I'll make it if they ever get to power, I'll make it my business to make sure that they will never get investments.
Yeah, but the good news is that with the corruption that has been exposed, corruption taking place within the ANC, people are thinking twice.
Yes.
And a number of people are saying to us, we have reconsidered our position. Mm-hmm. We are not going to support these people that are going to destroy the future of our children. And they're talking about the future of their children. And therefore, some people might say I am dreaming when I say the ANC will not be back in government.
No, I honestly think they're going to fail this time.
No, they are going to fail this time.
They're going to fail this time. Yeah.
And then you must watch for this ACDP now. Watch what ACDF is going to do. All right. The fact that we are reasonable people who use common sense.
Common sense.
I mean,
government.
common sense.
You know, I saw an interview of a Arab guy in Dubai, and the man said he was asked by the thing to explain why the AUE is so good, and he says we only have oil, no industries, nothing. It was because of the leadership.
Yes, sir. But Craig, before we move on, I want to introduce a very special person in my life.
Okay.
All right? My wife, Lydia. This is the only woman I've had for 43 years.
Oh, hi, hello. How are you doing?
Hello. I'm doing great. The Lord is good.
Yes, He is. Yes, He is. I'm so nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too, and thank you so much for what you are doing.
Oh no, I just want peace in our land. I was born in Natal. I was born in KwaZulu-Natal.
Uyakhuluma.
Ukhuluma inzulu. Kunjani wena?
Ngiyaphila kakhulu. Siyakuthanda.
Uthanda wena.
Okay.
God bless.
God bless.
Okay, sir.
Yes.
That's my wife.
Yes.
Lydia's name.
Thank you. Great to meet her.
Yes, sir.
You know what they say, behind every great man is a great woman.
Actually, I've changed it. I said next to a great man, not behind. Next to.
There we go. That's perfect. Yes. Next
That's
to.
perfect.
Yeah,
it's not
that's
she was
perfect.
just next to me here.
Yeah, that's perfect.
Yes, sir.
So, let's move on a little bit with regards to education. Now, you know, I remember back in the early 70s, 80s, there was all the riots going on just before the elections in 94 too. That whole generation burning schools, boycotting schools. I remember the Pink Floyd song. They said, no education, we don't need no education. You remember the song, and it created a big problem in Soweto, and people would burn the schools, and in the end, there was a whole generation of people with no education.
That was because of problem of leadership. It was leadership.
Yeah.
Leadership that encouraged and that taught them that liberation must come before education.
Yes.
Which was real stupid. Now, the banning of schools does happen sometimes, even under the New dispensation. And the unfortunate thing is that people get away with it. Schools are banned, trains are banned, buses are banned. Whenever people are protesting and they're not happy with anything, then they just ban. You know, it's like a culture of distraction has come upon the people. And that is something that we want to change.
See, and I find it strange that if your utility company, the offices for the utility that provide services for the communities, they're complaining that the services are terrible, but they go and burn the building. Now there's nothing.
You see, that's the foolishness that we're facing.
And that's sad.
And it's because of the leadership that we have. That's why there must be a change of leadership in South Africa. There must be a change of government. And we believe on the 8th of May, you know something, maybe let me divert a little bit. When Donald Trump, your president, was elected, he must know, and Americans must know, that our church prayed for him.
Wow.
People will be surprised. We prayed for him because we knew that Hillary was bad news.
Oh yeah, evil woman.
Yeah, Hillary was bad news, so we prayed for Donald Trump. And even though the media did not give him a chance,
he won.
And then what I liked hearing was to hear the journalists say, we never saw this coming. We never saw this coming. And we believe the same thing is going to happen in South Africa.
Yes, and you know, here's the thing. They never saw this. They never saw the Mueller report coming either. And he won.
Yes, sir, they did.
They proved him wrong. He's always been saying, never did anything. And it's just evil people. And the Lord works in mysterious ways.
Definitely.
Yes.
So he's one man we are going to work close to because he's a man of courage. We are people of courage ourselves. We're not cowards. Now, unlike our president who cannot make decisions because he's scared of those who turn against him.
Well,
But
him and Zuma have got their hand in the same pot. And Zuma told him, if you take your hand out, I'm going to tell somebody.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And all of his people that are there all know that he's crooked.
Yes, sir. They do.
So here's the problem when you compromise yourself. As soon as you compromise yourself, you cannot lead.
Correct. Correct. And you know, the Lord has really helped us. Our faith in God has helped us to maintain our integrity. A friend of mine a few years ago said to me that the ANC was talking in his presence and they did not know that he knew me.
Mm-hmm.
And they said among themselves, we have used a fine comb to try and find something in his background. And we couldn't find anything. So when a person has such a standing, that person can be tough on crime. That's why one of the promises that we have made is that when you vote a CDP into power, your children will be safe in the streets.
There we go.
Your women will be safe in the streets. These rapes that are taking place will be something of the past.
It's terrible. Can I tell you something? I got a phone call about a year and a half ago from my sister. And she told me, Craig, if you see what's going on, can you help? I said, okay, I'll do something. And when I saw the story about the father that had to watch his 2-year-old daughter raped, that was the day I said, I cannot walk away. I have to do something. And then I was talking to many people, black and white, that every minute 3 women or girls or children are raped in South Africa. It is appalling, unbelievable.
It is appalling. But we tell the world that once we have the ACDP in government, that is going to change.
Good. Now, do you believe in capital punishment?
People like you.
Sorry, what was that? Sorry.
Yes, sir. Yes, we do.
Okay.
Yeah, we do.
Okay.
And anybody who murders a person on his property at night will not be charged for murder. Because what do you want on my property at night?
Exactly.
I think when the liberals find such people guilty, it shows which side they have taken.
Exactly.
They take the side of the criminals.
Yes.
And we are saying it's unfair.
Yes.
We must take sides of the law-abiding citizens.
Law-abiding citizens.
That's correct. Those are the people who must protect.
Yes.
And those are the people who must think about before we think about the criminals. So anybody who comes on anybody's property and do harm, the property owner has the right to defend his family.
That's right. That's right. Only fair, right? It's only fair.
Yes, sir.
Only fair. So I saw you considering this new health system in the country to help with the health system. You know, like when you think about human rights, the human rights is to have a good health system, a good education, and to have security. Basically, have quality of life. Quality of life is to. I mean, if your children don't have a way to be healthy, and you know. How your society starts to fall apart, and and looking at this thing you were talking about, these putting a better health system into place where there's clean. Well, you know, I also talking about health system. I asked anybody that supports the ANC, how many clinics have you built in the last 24 years? How many new hospitals? How many? Aid stations, none. They didn't build any.
And you know the bigger problem is those that they've built some clinics. Those that have built many times are without medication.
Yeah,
without sufficient staff. So we are saying when we have clinics, I mean, my friend who introduced me, a Dr. Jardine. He's a medical doctor.
Uh-huh.
They are people who should be leading the fight
Yes.
for good health system for the country.
Yes.
But with the ANC, there is not necessarily medical doctors. They put people who are not medically qualified to head health departments and hospitals. That is why we have a crisis.
Yeah, because they don't understand the system.
They don't understand the system. And many times they do that because there is an obsession with race. With the present government, there's an obsession with race. If they do not find a qualified black person, they just put him there in any way. When there's a white who's qualified but is denied the position because of his color. But the ACDP says we are going to use the skills of all race groups in South Africa. When you enter Johannesburg International Airport, you will see black officials, immigration officials, white, Indians, and coloreds. But now, when you come, you only see black. As if South Africa is a country for only black people.
And that's not good for investments either. It's this, and you know,
that's correct.
And I have to say this, but every single, and I say this to everybody, every single person born in South Africa is an African, because Africa is not a color; it's a continent.
Correct.
It's a piece
That's
of
what you're
ground.
saying.
And for
That's
I mean, if we take the argument of, okay, white people came from the sea and black people came from the north, and the Khoisan were there, or the Khoi, and everybody was come together in this melting pot for 350 years. This question of land reform that they're saying only the black people own land, I beg to differ, because the white people that were left there when they first came, all those original people died. They went away. And other people were born. And that white tribe that was born there decided they didn't want nothing but to have land. So they became Africans.
Correct.
They just became Africans. They don't belong to Europe. They don't belong to America. They don't belong to any white people. They belong to Africa because they're Africans, right? And you know that apartheid was created by the British. It was literally created by the British, because when the Boers were up in the Transvaal and Orange Free State, it wasn't until they found gold and diamonds did the British come to take it away, and it was the Boers that fought them off to save everybody else, including the black people. They lost the fight, but the black people and the white people were living in peace together. There was no apartheid then. The British introduced it when they took over. And when they gave it to the Boers to take over, they handed them apartheid. You know, I always find it fascinating that every president that's become a president in South Africa, even since the Boer War, have to go and sit before the Queen a month after they're elected. Explain that. I don't understand that. I'm curious why.
That's going to change.
Yes, it has to change. Because I'll tell you something else that I know. Absa Bank is funding the ANC and the EFF and the PLF. Absa Bank.
Yeah, that's shocking, obviously, and totally unacceptable.
No.
If we could influence our members to all leave Absa Bank that supports the people that are full of anger and hatred. Mm-hmm. They are not helping to build the nation by their dividing.
Because it's corrupt. They're not interested in your country. They're interested in raping your country.
I agree with you.
Yeah. So
Craig, we're going to check that.
How we get my blood. I believe that if we could tell our people that every single politician in government today that's in charge of some department is corrupt. And if they knew and understand that if you didn't waste all this money, especially Eskom, 16 billion rand, divide that up by 40 million people. Almost every single family in South Africa, if you divide the country by 5, which is mom, father, mother, and 3 children, okay? You divide them up in a family. that means that there would be, say, 20 million families, hypothetically. ESCOM's funding would have paid for everybody to have a new house.
Amazing.
Think about it that way. Every single family in South Africa could get a new house for free. Where's that money?
Looted.
Exactly, looted. The money that Zuma stole and took to Dubai, where's that money? Zuma built $1 billion house. Where's that money? So there's a lot of things. Where's the oil they sold out of Saldanha Bay? It was stored by the Iranians.
All that we will recover. There is nobody who has stolen who will not pay back every cent of what they've stolen.
Lovely. That's what we need.
Yeah,
That's
definitely.
what we need.
Yeah.
Okay, so the high unemployment rate and the very few jobs, and you were talking about investments, trying to get investments. So you believe in a free market system of government where you're going to get investments from everybody, and you were talking about here about cutting the red tape. Too much regulation. Too many people that you have to go for with a piece of paper and another piece of paper, and nothing gets done. And in the end, you're too broke because you can't open up. You had to pay everybody to get to this one point. Correct?
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's
correct. You know, we try to advise our government. They don't listen. To learn from a country called Rwanda. In Rwanda, you can apply for a new business license and you get it within 72 hours.
wow.
Within 72 hours, you get a license to trade. And as a result, that country is developing very quickly. The economy is improving, is growing because investors find them very friendly, find to get the license and assistance, get it very easy. But in our country, it's like people are deliberately keeping new businesses out. Now, we are free marketers. We believe people must prosper as individuals, as companies, as families, because you cannot be a blessing to others when you're not blessed yourself.
And you know, I'm going to tell you something. It takes $100 to get an ounce of gold out of South Africa. Did you know that?
$100.
$100, and they sell it for $1,200 on the stock market.
Okay.
So consider the amount of money. Where's the rest of the money going?
Yeah.
Because they deliberately keep your economy at a very bad rate. So your rand dollar exchange right now is 12 to 1 or 14 to 1. I think it's nearly 15 to 1, right?
Yeah, 14, yeah.
Okay.
Almost 15.
So $1 is 1,500 rand. $100 is what is
15 rand.
Yeah. Is
$1
$1 is 15 rand. So $100 is $1,200 is 1,200 rand for 1 ounce of gold. And yet they sell it for 1,200 because your economy is so bad. Can you imagine if your economy was half that? The amount of money you could keep inside.
Yes. We are led by people who don't care for the poor.
Yes.
We will have, after the 8th of May, people who care for the needs of the poor, and who will not want the poor to depend on handouts forever.
Is the ACDP considering stopping this? There's a terrible program regarding children where the mothers are having children and they go on this welfare system that girls as young as 9 years old are having babies to get money.
That is a very, very, very bad system, a very bad system. We will teach children to wait before they get sexually active. abstinence. We will have abstinence programs. And any child who chooses to be sexually active, they will not be given a grant for every child they make. Because the unfortunate thing is that some of them think the more children I make, the more money I get. So government delays the development of children because of our school children, because as you make more children, you have to take care of them. As you make more children, then you drop out of school.
Exactly.
We will prioritize teaching our children maths and science, because today in South Africa, we have many children who know more about sex than they know about maths and science.
Yeah.
So we are saying with our government, we want a godly government. Our children will know more about mathematics and science than they know about sex and sex positions and so on. So this corruption
Yes.
is definitely going to be eradicated.
Yes. So is the law, I'm not sure, I'm not 100% sure, do they have a limit on the consent of age? Is it 16 or 18?
Well, theoretically they say 16.
Okay, but that's not, they don't, that doesn't count no more.
No. Children, even small children, are sleeping together these days, and there are no consequences.
It's terrible. Terrible.
Yeah, it's terrible.
So, police corruption. What will be the ACDP's policy on police corruption and political corruption regarding bribery? Like, for instance, for me, I found it strange that the Pusasa case, they arrested all the white people that provided the bribes to the politicians. Yet the politicians that were asking for the bribe never went to jail.
No, you're right.
Does
So
that
what's
make
happening?
sense? It's because
It's what's happening.
I don't think these. I can understand why they did it. They did it to be able to commit to have work, to create jobs. But to create jobs, they had to bribe a politician to get the contract to do this, right? So every single politician that took money denied other black people jobs. When you think about it, because that money could have been used to build even bigger things.
You know, being Christians give us an advantage in the sense that we also learn about restitution. Now, anybody who steals, anybody who loots, everything they steal will have to be paid back. Even though you will be found guilty and go to prison, we'll ensure that you are not going to sit in prison, twiddle your tongue, your fingers, and watch television. We will bring back labor.
Yes.
Prisoners must work in order to pay back what they've stolen. So the police who are corrupt are also going to be dealt with swiftly. And we know that some police, because of corruption, release prisoners. Some release prisoners, they steal files. So our approach is going to be, if a file with information has been lost because of corruption, what was due, the sentence that will be due to that person whose file was stolen has to be imposed on the policeman or official that stole the file. Now, when you do this, all the corrupt people will be removed from the streets.
Oh, yeah.
And people they will know that I do not want to end up in prison to serve another person's sentence.
Are these files being digitally recorded or just being put on paper?
Some are not.
And are they going to bring back the forensic science department, which was now I heard doesn't get paid anymore, so they don't have fingerprint departments, they don't have DNA departments, they don't have anything because it's all collapsed?
Well, not totally collapsed, but there is those that have collapsed because there also lack of manpower, shortage of manpower. But people become discouraged, become disillusioned, they are overworked. And when they are overworked, they resign, look for greener pastures, and their replacements are not people who are better qualified, but people who are not properly qualified. And then you have many DNA samples that are also lost, DNA not taken, and so on. A number of problems that the current government cannot solve, that we are aware of, and that we are telling the public we are going to solve. And
I'm 100% sure if a new government comes in, the United States will send enough experts to teach.
Okay, I miss. You're 100% sure?
I'm 100% sure if a new government was put in place, that the United States would send proper high expert teachers to teach forensics in South Africa to help the police.
Yes, sir. No, we will definitely reach out to countries that have a good track record, like the United States, to come and help. Because we want to clamp down on inefficiency, clamp down on criminality, and make South Africa a model among nations of the world. That's our goal, to make South Africa.
That is great, yeah. That is great. So, you were talking about property rights, and is there a policy that even though, like for instance, when you think about it, there's been the Gokos and that have been on this piece of land for nearly 80 years, and her father before, and his father before him, and they do not have land titles. They don't have any title at all to that land. And I worked in the townships in Natal, in KwaMashu, Inanda, Lamontville, Natal Mankulu, Kasunduzwayo, Mbogantwini, all those places. I was in Adams Mission. I worked in the townships for nearly 10 years. And they still that way. Why? 24 years later, people are still living in the block houses with 2 rooms.
Yeah. I used the word care. I said the current guys don't care.
They don't care.
They don't care.
Yeah.
So there has to be a group of people who care and who love people. Not love themselves and love their pockets and love their bank accounts. But people who care for others. And A3P, because we are Christian in nature, the compassion of the Lord is in our hearts. We care for people. We will help people.
Yes, that's good.
Yeah.
And what's going to happen to these people that have, like the VBC Bank and all this corruption? These same people that are saying that, we for all the people, but like the EFF and the BLF. And I find it ironic because we approached the IEC about the BLF threatening minorities in South Africa, which is a violation of the Constitution, Chapter 216, where they say you cannot incite people to go commit violence, which they did every day, holding up white mannequins and babies by the with the rope and calling on killing the Boer and one bullet, one Boer. This is violations of even the Constitution of South Africa, and yet the human rights organizations and the IEC are basically looking the other way. And I found that they are not impartial. They are biased, and they should be disbanded and rebuilt because they should have complete independence of the government, which is not the case.
I agree with you. I mean, a party like the BLF should not have been registered to participate in elections because of their hatred, their racist attitude, and the language they use.
It's terrible.
When people talk about war all the time, people talk about killing all the time, such people are not worthy of being members of parliament.
No.
So we were disappointed that they were registered because they should not have been registered. But talking about the Human Rights Commission, the Human Rights Commission has cleared Julius Malema on a charge of incitement to violence and racism. He said whites, he's not calling for whites to be killed for now.
For now.
I mean, for now. Because mentioning the word killing, another group of people, another race group, that should be racism. But the Human Rights Commission said people must look at this within their context. What context do you mean?
There's no context. If I said okay, so Kenneth, if I said that here in the United States, I would be arrested.
I know. Even in South Africa, if a white man can say the same words, he will be arrested.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And they use the K word. Umlungu, just the word umlungu is the K word.
Yeah, yeah.
Because umlungu means the same thing. It's just a different way of saying it, right?
Yeah.
Umlungu is the foam from the sea, right?
Mm.
It's the froth, that white froth that comes out of the sea. When the sea is upset, it boils that white froth. It was a Sangoma that told Shaka that umlungu, they're from the umlungu. It's coming from the froth from the sea.
Yeah,
they crawled out of that froth, and that's where the word umlungu came from.
And that also should have been banned.
Banned as well. That same word should be used as the K word. And
right.
I agree with you.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's terrible.
Yeah.
So what do we do with Andile? What do we do with Andile at the end of the day? And the elections are over, and now he's calling for armed struggle. He wants to become a terrorist.
Yeah. Fortunately, the ANC will not be in power. We will clamp down on him.
Okay.
We are people of peace. We will not tolerate race, language, threats of violence.
Yeah.
We will not tolerate.
Yeah.
There will be consequences for people who provoke others and instigate violence. There will be consequences.
Yes.
Unfortunately, today, there are no consequences. Depends who says those words. If it's from another race group, they are taken seriously. If it's from somebody who looks like me, from Andile and the others, it's not taken seriously. But that's going to change.
I have a question for you. Now, we also have this xenophobia that's going on in South Africa, where people, foreigners that are there, are being attacked by the local people, and some of them have been killed and maimed. And I saw some terrible video the other day where a woman and a man that were in a truck were pulled out, and they cut their arms and legs off in the street. And there's been very little talked about it, but it's upset, and I've seen a lot of videos now coming from other countries that are coming over here to the States now. These videos are calling for the boycott of South Africa because of the xenophobia that's going on, and now they're attacking South Africans in their own countries and burning their trucks. I know there's an influx of foreigners into South Africa that is uncontrollable right now. And you have a lot of drug dealers from Nigeria bringing in terrible drugs, and then all the scams from the computer scams. What is the ACDP's policy on that?
We believe in tight border control, something we do not have currently. And we also do not agree with borderless countries to make South Africa one big country with no borders. Yeah, that for me is another foolishness that government wants to introduce, because if they cannot manage only South Africa, when criminals come from wherever, how will they manage the whole continent? And what would you do if you end up with a Robert Mugabe as the president of the United States of Africa? Well, the ACB does not agree with that. Now, we remember that during the armed struggle, many African leaders were in different countries seeking refuge as they were fighting apartheid, and they were given refuge.
Yes.
I watched a video clip from a Nigerian senator relating how they help South Africans. One of the things he said was their universities became so overcrowded, particularly the dormitories. And the government of Nigeria decided to remove from dormitories local Nigerians in order to make space for South Africa.
Oh, wow.
I mean, they showed that kind of generosity to South Africans. But South Africans are not doing the same thing.
Yeah.
They are not reciprocating.
Yeah.
because of corruption.
Corruption.
So, yeah, because of corruption. So ACDP believes that when you have tight border controls, then people who are in the country will be legal, and everybody who is legal in the country must have government protection,
Yes.
regardless of where they come from.
Yes.
Again, the advantage that we have as Christians that read the Bible, we know what God says about how to treat foreigners. He reminded Israel many times that when you were oppressed, this and this and this happened to you. And do not forget that when the people also come to your shores, that you need to show them the decency and compassion that you were shown. So when the ACDP is in government, foreigners who are legal in the country will feel at home. We'll make sure that they feel at home. Will be a home for everybody.
It's a good message because hopefully they'll see this video and see how you feel about that, and they maybe calm their spirits because of this terrible things that have been going on. It needs to stop.
Yeah, it needs to stop.
They say most of it is in Natal, KwaZulu Natal. Most of these attacks, but I've seen it in Johannesburg too. I've seen it in Gauteng. There's areas where they're pulling all these people out of the buildings, leaving them on the streets with babies and children, young children and mothers, and just throw them on the street. I mean, if they're coming here illegally and they're squatting, the government probably needs to tell them you've got a month to go home, or those will have to take you home.
You know, for us to be a society that respects law and order, people who are illegal will have to be deported so that they find a way of coming in legally. Because if you don't do that, you're going to have crooks, you're going to have criminals, you're going to have dangerous people who come and hide among the people.
Yeah, and use them.
And because we want to be an orderly society.
Yes.
Those who want to come in must come in legally through the border.
Yes.
Yeah. And there will be consequences. One of the problems with the current government is that there are no consequences.
No.
I mean, to attack foreign nationals, who many of them are being accused of stealing jobs. The fact is they're not stealing anybody's job.
No.
They're working with their own hands. They're in the street corners, they're doing jobs that many locals do not want to do.
Exactly.
That they're being punished because of the anger that has not been dealt with in the hearts of the people.
Yeah.
When they fail, they have to find somebody to blame.
Yes.
Now, we say to our people, even today, we're discussing with somebody blaming apartheid. I mean, there are floods. In case that you know that there's been floods.
Yes.
And one of the mayors had the audacity to blame apartheid for those floods, you know. So, and I said to this person, until we acknowledge our faults, we will never solve our problems.
Yes.
So blaming people for our faults and our mistakes, we will never be able to correct them. That's why the ACDP, because we are people who understand scriptures, that if we don't acknowledge our faults, we are not going to find any help.
I think Andile said the other day from the BLF, he said that the hurricane or tornado that went through Mozambique was caused by white people.
Yeah, I mean, those are stupid things, you know. Andile, there's something wrong in his head. I think there's something wrong.
Yeah, he's not okay. That kind of rhetoric is dangerous. It's silly, and he's got to realize that nobody in the world's ever going to allow him to. They will never invest in South Africa. They will never ever give him anything but the time of day.
Yeah.
Because there's no way that anybody would invest in somebody that's actually calling for the murder of women and children. And if racism, a young boy, a young child that is born pure of God, right?
Correct.
This is a blank child. This child's come to the world.
Yeah.
And who teaches them how to think? We do. So how do we teach them? We teach them racism. We teach them hatred. We teach them to steal. But when they came, they were pure. And then we corrupted them.
Yeah.
without thoughts. Because I was not born a racist. I was taught to be one, and I decided not to be one. I made that decision because God gives you free will, right?
Correct.
God gives you free will, so if you want to be a racist, it's because you want to be a racist. And every child is born pure. That's why I say Africa is not a color. Africa is a continent. And every child born in Africa is an African. And you know, there's only one race in this world, human race. And we just different colors like flowers. Is all flowers racist? No, they're just different colors. Right?
Yes, sir. No, that's good. I agree with you. That is why we believe that South Africa is going to be a beautiful country when the ANC is finally out.
Mr. Meshoe,
South Africa is a dream country.
Yes, it is. And it's sad that Mandela's dream of Rainbow Nation didn't materialize. But I got to tell you something. After I found the documents from 1993, he knew what was coming.
He knew what was coming.
He knew what was coming. He was in the plan all along. Him and de Klerk. De Klerk sold everybody, including the black people, down the toilet. They took a lot of money. They lied to everybody, Mandela included. They all lied. Ramaphosa was part of that deal that they wrote that document in 1993. They were going to steal everybody's money, collapse the schools, collapse the infrastructure, steal the pensions, and do it. That's exactly what they're doing right now. That's exactly what they're doing.
Tell me, how can I get access to that document you're talking about? Because I haven't seen
I will send it to you.
I would love to have
I will send it. It's been going around for years, but I have it. I put it on Twitter. I put it on USAC. I put it all over. And you know, my organization is United South African Coalition. And the reason I made this organization is because I don't belong to anybody. I don't support nobody, but I support all of you. Except the ANC, EFF, and the PLF.
Okay.
I believe in my people. I don't believe in my color. And I mean, I grew up with the Zulus. I grew up with the Indians and the colored people in Mgeni Road when I was dirt poor. My father was a mechanic. My mother was a bookkeeper. And my real mother was Elizabeth Kumalu. She looked after us. She took us to school. She beat us with a wooden spoon. She taught us who we are today. My mother went to work. My father went to work. But the lady that brought us up was a very tall black Zulu lady. Her name was Elizabeth Kumalu. And you know, just a minute, sorry. And this when I grew up in Mgeni Road, in the poor section of Mgeni Road, where there were colored people, Indian people, and black people and white people. We all lived in that street. And so we never understood this thing, you know. So to me, my people are everybody. And when I started to get involved in this situation with South Africa, I realized something. Everybody's just pointing fingers, but they're not looking at this. The three looking back at them.
Sure.
And this is God watching you.
Sure.
So here's your hand. The three fingers looking at you. Here's God watching you. And all you're doing is pointing fingers. And all you have to do is sit down and talk to each other. I will send you a video clip just now. I'll send it to Ivan. It's a video clip. A farmer called me yesterday worried about somebody wanting to hurt him and his family. I said, well, give me the man's name. It was one of his workers. So I called the man at home. I asked him, what's the problem? He told me that the farmer owed him money. Then I said, well, what happened? And he said, well, the farmer owes me money. I took his stuff. Then they started fighting each other about something and threatening each other, which could have turned into a farm murder. Right? So I
Yeah.
called the man and I said to him, I'm a human rights guy. I'm your brother. I want to talk to you. How can we fix this problem? He says he owes me some money. I said, so if I get you your money, this is over? No problem, boss. He says, no problem. I said, I'm not your boss, I'm your brother. I want to know if I fix this, you give him the money, he'll give you money, your brother can you give it to your brother, and your brother can bring the machine back and everything's okay. Everything's okay. It was sorted 5 minutes. Why? Because they could just talk to each other.
That's good. That's good. That's a ministry of reconciliation that the ACDB believes in.
Yeah, just talk. If we just talk to each other, we can save a lot of problems.
True.
People divide us because they can, and it's the only way they conquer us is to divide us by color, creed, sex, race, all kinds of stuff. And it's just a game to hurt people. Why? Why? We gotta stop this. Has to stop.
No, I do. Got to stop this here.
Yes. Anyway, it was great talking to you. Thank you very much for talking to me. I'm gonna put this out and let the world see you and meet you, get to know you.
Well, thank you, Craig. It was great talking to you too.
Yeah, and my regards to your family and to everybody in the ACDP. I appreciate what you're doing and thank you. It's like a new life.
Yes, sir. My regards to your family too.
Thank you.
And
Thank
all
you.
our American friends.
Okay, I will. And I'll post this all over YouTube everywhere.
Oh, wonderful.
Okay.
Wonderful.
Thank you
Okay,
very
sir.
much for being on.
No, thank you so much. Have
Okay.
a lovely afternoon.
You too. Take care.
Take care.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.